I was late to the party with adopting the original Nintendo Switch. I bought mine in February of 2022 and it quickly became my favorite Nintendo console of all time and one of my favorite consoles in general. Well, the Switch 2 is finally here, and as someone that is very excited for the sequel, well, this day couldn't have come any sooner. If you're new here, my name is Arnell, the comic book gamer, and let's go ahead and unbox this bad boy and let's see if the Nintendo Switch 2 is truly better than the original Nintendo Switch. So looking at what's new for the Switch 2, well, there is a ton. Starting with the display, you're getting a larger 7.9-inch HDR LCD display, and if you have no idea what that means, just know that this is a larger display to comfortably enjoy your games on the go that gets nice and bright and features very vibrant colors. Size-wise, this is also bigger than the Steam Deck and Ally X, at least in the screen department, making it the second biggest mainstream handheld console out there right after the Legion Go. It is running a custom NVIDIA processor to allow for way higher performance like 4K 60 FPS and 120 Hz variable refresh rate. The battery life to power this massive upgrade is less than I'd personally like to see, estimated right around 2 to 6 hours depending on the types of games that you're playing, but honestly, if you're like me with a charger nearby almost all the time, it's still a solid amount of time to game anywhere. You're also getting much larger onboard storage at 256 gigabytes as standard, and you can also use microSD express cards to expand that storage when needed. Along with those improvements, you'll see it's visually upgraded as well, being a much larger console overall, new Joy-Cons that connect magnetically this time, and new hardware features like a built-in microphone, additional USB-C port at the top, and a new fan on the dock to help with cooling down this new performance powerhouse. I particularly like to see the subtlety of the colors on the new Joy-Cons as well as the build quality. It helps it look and feel a lot more like a more mature console than the almost toy-like feeling of the original. The magnetic connection actually feels incredibly solid, and the latch mechanism actually feels really good in hand as well, which is something that I was originally concerned about just seeing footage online. Now, as I get into my impressions of the Switch 2 and the Switch 1 and just the overall comparisons, please drop a like down below and drop a comment and let me know if you got the Switch 2 or if you're excited or if you're just still kind of hesitant about getting it. I would love to hear from you and have a conversation with you down below. Also, if you are finding value in this video, the biggest way that you can help support me is by subscribing and continuing to watch some more of these videos. I do plan on doing a lot more Switch 2 content, diving deeper into the games and the overall hardware and a lot of accessories that are out there too. Speaking of accessories, I do want to give a quick shout out to jsaux. They are not a sponsor. I did not get paid by them at all to say this, but they are an awesome company. They know that I was doing a Switch 2 video, and so they sent over a really awesome gift box of a lot of different accessories that they are launching with the Switch 2. I mean, you're able to get high quality screen protectors, different cases and grips. You're also able to get different carrying cases, so you can get something really fun and colorful like this, or something that's really hard and protective like this. Now, something that I personally really enjoy is the thumbstick grips, because even though the Joy-Cons are bigger on the Switch 2 and the thumbsticks are obviously bigger as well, the just size of the thumbsticks aren't that great and the grip isn't that great, so getting some thumbstick grips from jsaux really helps to elevate that experience and give me a little bit more of a precise feeling when I'm moving around and walking around. They also do have really fun accessories like a steering wheel, which is perfect for Mario Kart, and they also have a really cool game storage bin that's actually pretty nice and high quality, feels really solid, and it holds all of your Switch carts, whether it's Switch 1 or Switch 2. So if you're interested in any of their products, again, this is not sponsored at all, but I will have a link down below in the description if you want to check out all of these things mentioned in this video, as well as any new accessories that they'll be coming out soon. Now, taking a look at the differences between the Switch 2 and the Switch 1, I really appreciate the larger size on the Switch 2. It feels a lot better and a lot beefier in the hands, and overall, the Joy-Cons also have a really nice, much better stable feel than the, like I said before, kind of the toy-like feel of the Switch 1. That magnetic connection is very strong and very stable, and it just feels way more solid than the rail system on the Switch. I kind of appreciate the rail system just for how easy and simple that it is, but the magnetic connection is also really simple and really convenient to just slap on to the console or slap on to the controller grip, or really any other accessory as well. The screen size being so much bigger is really awesome as well. It's great having a very nice, bright, large screen to experience the same games that I was playing on the Switch 1, but on a much larger screen that is also portable. With the new hinge as well, is really good for, you know, tabletop and desktop gaming and stuff like that. That way I'm just able to really experience that game on a much larger screen in a lot of different angles and formats than I was able to do on the very limited viewing angles that you could get on the Switch 1. The buttons feel very tactile and a little bit clickier than they were on the Switch 1, which I really appreciate. So it just kind of, you know, elevates the overall feel of it. It doesn't feel cheap. So overall, the just impressions of the Switch 2, especially actually having it in hand instead of just watching a bunch of videos online and a bunch of trailers and stuff like that, it feels very solid, and it's something that I'm really excited for. All of the new games coming out on the Switch 2. It's funny, the Switch 1 I mainly played on the TV, but I'm really feeling the handheld experience on the Switch 2, and that's something that I'm hoping to incorporate more into my style of gameplay, or just playing it more, you know, whether I'm on lunch at work or, you know, just going to a park or something like that. Just being able to play handheld and just actually using a Switch for the various ways that it was actually intended to be used from the very beginning. So that's something that I'm really excited about, where on the Switch 1, I just kind of just used it as a home console, and that was really it. So yeah, something that I'm really excited about. Now taking a look at the game performance across various games, some that are specific to the Switch 2, while others that are on the Switch 1 but do get Switch 2 upgrades. So starting with a new one for me is Mario Kart World. Believe it or not, I have never played a Mario Kart game, so this is my introduction to the series, and honestly, I couldn't have picked a better one. It's an open world design, allowing me to just drive around anywhere that I want and be able to jump into races and have a blast across various different terrains and environments. The gameplay feels really good, and it does have a learning curve to it, but it's just insanely fun. I also really appreciate the graphics, so if you're just watching gameplay online, you can't really take it in personally if you were actually holding this in your hand or on a large screen in front of you. But what I will say is that you'll notice less jagged edges in certain areas. I mean, it's not going to be like a high-end PC performance in terms of the graphical department, but you are going to see really nice quality textures and much better visuals than what you would see on the Switch 1. Coming back to a Mario game on the Switch 1, it just kind of feels a little bit fuzzy and less detailed than what you can experience on the Switch 2. And what better game to highlight the performance upgrades is Super Mario Odyssey, which was originally a launch game for the Switch 1. So Super Mario Odyssey gets a free Switch 2 upgrade, allowing you to have much better visuals and smoother gameplay. It is far smoother and a much more enjoyable experience on the Switch 2, something that I didn't really feel like I was lacking from the Switch 1, but honestly, playing it on the Switch 2 makes me not want to go back to the Switch 1 for whatever reason. Another great launch game for me is Tears of the Kingdom. Yep, you heard that right. That is something that I am considering a launch game for me because I never played it on the original Switch. Obviously, this is not truly a launch game, but it's kind of one for me because I never played it on the original Switch, and I specifically bought it knowing that the Switch 2 was coming out, and just kind of waited about a month or so before I actually started playing it on the Switch 2. So now that the Switch 2 is here and this has just been collecting dust on my shelf for the last month, it's great. I mean, the game itself is just fantastic. Breath of the Wild is one of my favorite games of all time, and Tears of the Kingdom just really brings me back to the joy and the exploration and just the overall awe factor of Breath of the Wild, but now with obviously a much bigger world here, and being able to experience this specifically on the Switch 2 is a really awesome experience. For this being my first way of experiencing Tears of the Kingdom, I'm really glad that I waited until the Switch 2, because the Switch 2 upgrade is actually awesome. I mean, I really feel like this is a game that feels at home. It feels perfect on the Switch 2, and also just kind of imagining what it would be like playing this on the Switch 1. Obviously, it was insanely popular, but to me, again, this is something that would feel like a downgrade going to the Switch 1 and just playing it on there instead of with all of the performance and graphical improvements, as well as some of the other things that you can kind of get with the Switch 2, like a weird app thing, but honestly, I'm not going to use that. So the gameplay and the overall experience is amazing on the Switch 2 with Tears of the Kingdom. Now, a big one for me is Pokemon Scarlet and Violet. Again, another one that was on the Switch 1 and has an upgrade on the Switch 2. I love this. So for me, I'm a little bit in the weird camp of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet, specifically Scarlet is the one that I got, performed great for me on the Switch 1. There was obviously so many people that had weird bugs, that had just a weird experience on the Switch, and it just wasn't a good, pleasant game. And honestly, that's a shame because I think that the story was great. I loved what they did with the open world, and the overall aesthetic of it, especially being in sort of like a school setting, is honestly really cool and awesome. So I really loved the story of Scarlet, but it just got bogged down with the performance just not being good on the Switch 1. Now, somehow I was able to avoid all of that, especially playing this thing at launch. I literally played it the day that it came out, and for whatever reason, since that day, it's worked perfectly fine for me. But the overall just feel of the quality of the game was lacking. So the edges were quite jagged. There was a lot of what some would call anti-aliasing going on, so the edges weren't as smooth as they should be, things like that, especially with draw distances, just feeling really just kind of cheap feeling. But there was a far better experience on the Switch 2. So you do still have some, visual inconsistencies here and there. I'm not really going to fault it, but overall I will say that it does perform very well, much better than it did on the Switch 1. And this is coming from somebody that didn't experience any issues from the Switch 1 and enjoyed their experience putting in 40 to 50 hours of gameplay on the original Switch with Scarlet. So it honestly performed great for me, and I'm even noticing that improvement. So if you played Scarlet and Violet and you had a bad experience, or you're maybe just turned off from ever playing it because you saw all of the things online, well, getting a Switch 2 version of it is really going to solve pretty much virtually all of those issues. Now, another Switch 2 game that I would mention is Welcome Tour. That is a launch game that came out to really highlight and showcase all of the new features of the Switch itself. However, I didn't get that because I really believe that it should be a free game. And honestly, for the quality and look of it, it just doesn't look that interesting. And it's not something that I want to spend $10 on. Now, another Switch 2 game that I really enjoy is Fortnite. So Fortnite actually performs very well and smooth on this as well. Now, Fortnite can really play on just about anything, so this isn't really, a big benchmark to really love and applaud that it can play on the Switch 2. But it is cool to see a very popular game that somehow is still popular after all these years, performing very smooth and well on the Switch 2. But if you stuck around for this long, let me know down below, what is your favorite thing to play on the Switch 2? What are you most looking forward to as a launch title, whether that is an actual Switch 2 game or a Switch 1 game that you've maybe been waiting for a long time, maybe it has an upgrade to the Switch 2. I want to hear from you down below. And also, make sure you drop a like before you head out, and check out this next video right here. YouTube thinks that you're really going to like it. Make sure you subscribe for more videos like this. Peace.